Hello? Hello, hello? Well, if you're hearing this, then, that means you're, watching the newest episode of Useless Nerdy Knowledge, and, well, you guessed it. He's talking about Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, and, there's a jump scare in 3D.
You're heading your way towards the useless nerdy knowledge. Please do not go any further. If you will not comply, you will hear a nerd rambling.
Nerd alert!
Get those nerds! 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 Nerd! Exterminate!
Go ahead, make my day.
Bazinga!
I'll be back.
Greetings, fellow podcast listeners. Welcome to another episode of Useless Nerdy Knowledge. So I've wanted to kind of talk about this franchise for quite a while because, it's a big part of my, early or late childhood, I guess you could say. I don't know. 2014, I think I was I think just 13 years old around there, but still, it was a big deal back then. So, yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's. It's all over the place now. You see, countless merchandise of it, either in, a Hot Topic, a Walgreens, a Target, a Walmart. You see it everywhere. Action figures, plushies, you name it. You see them everywhere. It is a bit tiresome, but I did want to talk about my own experience of both the, the whole legacy and, of how Five Nights at Freddy's was back in the day. And then I'll, of course, talk about my thoughts on the movie that finally came out after, 9 years since the game first came out. So, obviously, Five Nights at Freddy's was a huge deal when it first came out. It was just another regular indie horror game that most people on the internet would be like, oh my gosh, look, it's a horror video game about Chuck E. Cheese animatronics that come and kill you and all that. It's just well, it's a pretty neat concept and an interesting idea. Obviously, the whole Chuck E. Cheese animatronics idea, has been seen multiple times before, in cartoons or TV shows and such, before Five Nights at Freddy's was even a concept. But, of course, with game creator Scott Cawthon, who is known for mainly doing animation, did a whole bunch of other, stuff prior to that. So, everyone was at first what does this guy look like? He's so mysterious. At first there were thoughts of what the guy looked like. There was always these fake conspiracies of all this stuff. But there have been later images released of what he looks like, and he looks like just a regular, ordinary guy. So nothing wrong with that, I guess. I mean, it's not really anything I expected. It's just a typical looking guy, But whatever, it doesn't exactly matter. But the fact that he came up with this simple idea that anybody could have thought of is just amazing. And to be completely honest, I'm not entirely sure why we were so overly obsessed with it, but I think I know. It's not because the whole creepy vibe of the animatronics of how when you see them on the cameras they don't move and such, but it had to be because we were so interested in the story and lore and probably the overreacting of YouTubers playing it. The very first memory I have from actually seeing gameplay footage of it or whatever was of Smosh. Obviously I was a big Smosh fan back in the day because I always loved their skits of food battle and all these other different things, and obviously with something as popular as Smosh, they would have multiple channels. So they had their second channel, and they had Smosh Games, and Smosh Games is from what I believe, if memory serves me correctly, is where I first heard and saw Five Nights at Freddy's. They did a first part, a two-parter video on it, of course, and it was kind of interesting, a bit scary, because you're trapped in a room, you look through cameras where it's really dark out, you can't really see or what to expect, and then if you at the last second you don't pay attention or whatever, you get jump scared basically. So it's very unique, and I think obviously later many of us would later discover not just watching other YouTubers play it like PewDiePie and such, but mainly a lot of people immediately go to Markiplier, who, let's be honest, his career would not really be as popular where it is today if had it not been for Five Nights at Freddy's. He probably still would have been a somewhat known popular YouTuber, but he probably would not have been where he is now without Five Nights at Freddy's, because his like first gameplay of it alone to as of this date uh, got over like 50 million views, and even in like an animation from him playing Five Nights at Freddy's got over 55 million, which is absolutely insane. But I think that there's a lot that Mark owes to that game. Like he owes Scott like a huge favor, and I think it's cool too because like him and Scott kind of like sort of like connect together in a way. I'm not sure if they ever like talk to each other or message each other or whatever. I don't know what the whole spiel is on that, but I have a feeling that in some way they kind of connect together because, like, Mark got early accesses to all these different games and such, and it's like, you bring the most attention to my game and you bring a lot of support, yada yada, let me support you, yada yada. And I think the same thing kind of goes for MatPat, who's done game theory, where he basically dives in as hard as he can, does as much research and thinking as he can with all these Five Nights at Freddy's videos, and it's like, at first it was like really fun to see all these different things come together and argue, being like, no, this isn't right, or no, this is not the correct story of like what happens, or this is not the purple guy, yada yada. But it was like always like really fun just to theorize and talk about with your friends and just like thinking about it and all that stuff. It was just insane because even like when the sequel came out, it literally came out like 2 months after the first game because like the first one came out in August 14th, if I'm not mistaken, of 2014. And then it came out literally in November. I want to say November 20th. I might be wrong, but it was basically around the same year. And then next year, I think in March, came the third game. And then it was, of course, teased Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the quote-unquote final chapter, which, if any of you people, watch any horror movie ever, whenever a title says the final chapter, it's never the final chapter, ever. But basically, like, it was teased around Halloween, but then, like, early, like, in the summer, I want to say July of 2015, maybe, basically, Five Nights at Freddy's 4 came out of nowhere, basically. And then, in Halloween, there was a DLC update, or basically around October for a Halloween DLC. And then, it was declared the final chapter for a long time, and then all of a sudden came this RPG that nobody liked except for a few select people, including myself, was FNAF World. And that's what Five Nights at Freddy's is short for those who don't know, FNAF, FNAF, it's usually what we refer to. But, the thing is that, like, I was in a big Pokemon phase, and I really liked playing Pokemon XD on my GameCube, and that was the only Pokemon game I had at the time. And then eventually, like, later down the years, I finally had, like, Pokemon on my Game Boy Advance, playing, like, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and then Fire Red and Leaf Green, yada yada. But they're pretty fun. And of course, like, I always liked making my own Pokemon cards and printing them out of, like, different Godzilla and Ultraman characters, and then eventually I would even make them out of Five Nights at Freddy's characters, and I thought that was pretty fun. I think I want to say that I played with them with a few friends of mine back in the day. I'm pretty sure I still have them, like, somewhere in my closet. I'm 100% certain they're still there, but it was, like, really fun just to do that. And Five Nights at Freddy's World was, like, the closest thing to doing something similar of an RPG style to Pokemon mixed with Five Nights at Freddy's, because I thought that would be like, what happened if they did that? And it's more kid-friendly, too. Of course, not a whole lot of people understood it or liked it. I can definitely see, like, the flaws in it, but again, it's like one of those things where it's like, it's more trying to dive deeper into, like, the lore or the weird, bizarre Easter eggs and storytelling. And that was the whole point of most of these games, was just the storytelling. And Five Nights at Freddy's sister location was where stuff really got interesting, and many declare that to be the best Five Nights at Freddy's game, because of, like, how different it is from the rest. Because obviously with, like, the last four, mainly with the first three games, you would, like, stay in one spot and not move at all, except just, like, move left to right if you had to. But with sister location, it's like you actually got to move from one place to another, like, whenever the game allowed it. And then, of course, there was, like, this other game called Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator that literally came out of nowhere. There were no teasers, there were no trailers, there was, like, nothing. It just came out of the blue on Steam for free, and it was just like, whoa, where did this come from? And then, of course, there's, like, Ultimate Custom Night, and I want to say it was around after Five Nights at Freddy's sister location came out, and, like, probably soon after Pizzeria Simulator, that all the merchandise and spin-offs and obviously before that, but it's like all the merchandise was just all over the place. You'd see them at Targets, at Walmart, at GameStop. There was, like, so many exclusive, like, action figures you could get at GameStop or Walgreens or wherever. Actually, usually you would find them either only at Target or exclusively through Walmart, which is kind of stupid. It's like, come on, I don't want to get this glow-in-the-dark Foxy just because it's at Walmart to get it, because there were, like, a lot of waves of it. Because here's the thing, back when I was obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's, and I still have the, like, first let's see, 3 waves of Five Nights at Freddy's. Like first I have like, the first wave, just the regular ones from the first game, and then the second wave, which was like the nightmare ones from Five Nights at Freddy's 4, and then the third wave, which is the animatronics from Sister Location. And then there was a fourth wave, which came from Pizzeria Simulator, but I was like, look, I really want to get it, but I don't want to have to go through all that work just to get them, because I literally had to hunt down in like so many different Walmarts to try and find all of them, because I really wanted to get them so bad. It was like so difficult, like it was legit difficult. But again, it's like trying to hunt for like all those different like Marvel Legends figures of like how you could like build a figure, and that was kind of the whole gimmick with those things. It's like if you collect them all, you can build your own action figure. If you collect them all, yada yada, and it was a pretty good gimmick. I can definitely say that. Like, let's be honest, lots of toy companies do that with like Star Wars, Marvel, whatever. It's a good gimmick, but at the same time, it's a bit of a pain in the ass in order to do something like that. But regardless of that, nowadays it's like not a whole lot of people care as much, because like whenever I go into a Walmart and just browse around the toy section for whatever reason, I see like a Statue of Liberty Chica or an Icicle Foxy, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Because it's like they're like turning 90s Ninja Turtles on us, and like they're running out of ideas, because it's like, what else can you do with it besides make different colored variations of it? Because there's like so many rotting in the warehouses of like, look, we got all this Five Nights at Freddy's stuff that people really gave a crap about, but now it's a fad and nobody does anymore. It's like Pogs or fidget spinners of how they were big fads and all that. It's like, when will it go away? When will the spin-offs and sequels stop? And even the fan games, there's like a lot of good handful of fan games, but at the same time, it's like lots of people are sick and tired of them. It's like, please just stop. But yeah, of course, lots of horror franchises tend to have lots of sequels. But though, like both the story and the animatronics with their own different, unique personalities was something interesting I always found. Like with Balloon Boy, nobody likes Balloon Boy. Golden Freddy was like sort of an Easter egg, but at the same time, just very creepy of how he didn't really do anything or move. Foxy was just known to be kind of an a-hole and moved very fast, and lots of other different animatronics known for their creepy vibes and hilarious types of, personalities and all that stuff. But I don't know, it's just like something about it. It's like mimicking Chuck E. Cheese animatronics and making them scary is just something interesting. And yes, I have gone to a Chuck E. Cheese a handful of times before they took out the animatronics, and I have not been to a Showbiz Pizza place. I want to say there's like maybe a couple of locations that still have them. I don't know, but I've seen my fair share of animatronics, and I still haven't seen like every animatronic in the world. But there probably exists like a handful that are probably creepy. I've seen animatronics that like are submerged underwater, and lots of people have, I believe it's called submechanophobia, where it's like the fear of animatronics that are submerged underwater. And it's kind of creepy, to be honest. It's a lot creepier than actual land animatronics, I will say. But regardless of that, basically, Five Nights at Freddy's was a huge part of my life, because like I will be honest, the movie I made, Creature of the Shadows 1 and 2, I took a little bit of liberties and some inspiration from Five Nights at Freddy's. There were like some ideas I had, a couple little tweaks. Mainly from like a couple little things and ideas I thought of like were from Five Nights at Freddy's, and obviously I was like, well, I don't want to fully copy it, and I just want to make something different, but yet take some like inspiration from it. And originally like from the first couple movies, it's like originally. Or no, how was it? Inspired by the works of, I think Matt Pat, but I think I meant to say like, I watched Matt Pat before because of his theory videos, but I meant to say, inspired by Scott Cawthon. So that's what I meant to put in there. But at the same time, I also put inspired by Cinemassacre, who's known for doing the Angry Video Game Nerd. But he was also the one that inspired me to basically make a film and go into filmmaking, because of watching Board Games. And if you have not seen Board Games, it's like a spin-off series to Angry Video Game Nerd, where it's sort of connected, but at the same time not. It's like very unique and very original, and just like a lot of thought was put into it. I really hope that James comes with a new Board Games sometime in the future. He's teased like a little tiny bit, but it's just one of those things of we'll have to see. But anyway, aside from that, obviously with something as popular as Five Nights at Freddy's, we were like waiting for a movie. And there was like all these different articles and all these different speculations of like, when's the movie going to come out? When's the movie going to come out? And movie's currently in development, yada, yada, yada. There's like all this talk and all this hype, and nobody knows like what to believe anymore. It's just like crazy. And even before the movie came out, there was like all these different things of like the Banana Splits movie, where it was literally an R-rated horror film. An adult horror movie. And the Banana Splits were an actual real-life kid-friendly show, and I guess they somehow got the property rights to the Banana Splits to make them like scary Five Nights at Freddy's animatronics. And then there was also Willy's Wonderland, which was a Five Nights at Freddy's style horror movie that starred Nicolas Cage that literally beat the crap out of animatronics. So it's like a horror action film, and we were like, well, maybe this could be similar to it or whatever. I don't know. It's just like all these different interpretations, basically. And obviously, all the fan games of like Five Nights at Candy's, Those Nights at Rachel's, The Joy of Creation Reborn, and all these other different games like were all over the place. People were just obsessed with making their own Five Nights at Freddy's games, whether they were crappy or absolutely amazing. And I'm probably betting that there's still lots of horror movies that took inspiration from that. And of course, like with the Five Nights at Freddy's games, they're meant to more be played on a PC, like on a computer, because you have full control of the mouse. The Five Nights at Freddy's core collection, with like the first 4 games plus Sister Location, came out on PlayStation 4 and Switch and Xbox, but I own it on PlayStation 4. I've had a couple live streams of it, and it's okay, but having to play the game on the controller takes a lot of getting used to. But there's a reason why it's easier to control things with the mouse and the shift button and all that, because like I don't know, it's just like if you were to experience it yourself, you would know what I'm saying. But on the plus side, I did get to have the chance to get the VR game of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted VR on the PlayStation 4, and that was actually pretty good. I was able to actually beat it 100%, like all the trophies and stuff. I don't think I'm pretty sure I haven't got like I don't even know if there are any trophies. I'm pretty sure there are, but of like the DLC Halloween pack. And but regardless of that, it's still like pretty good for what it is. I can definitely say Scott did a lot for what he is, considering that he's not quite as popular, but it's just one guy that was just known for doing animation, just made this whole thing just blow up, and it's crazy. And finally, after the game was finally popular, after the game first came out, like 9 years, finally there came a movie. And then of course there was like all these speculations of, oh, Markiplier is going to be in it, he's going to star in it. Well, unfortunately there was some complications. He was in the middle of doing his movie with like a whole scheduling thing, so unfortunately he's not in the movie. But there is someone in the movie that is a YouTuber in there, and that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil it. But basically, the movie was just okay. Obviously, there's a whole lot of storytelling that the casual viewer might find a bit boring, but I will say it was not quite what I expected in a couple places. There were some Easter eggs and little hidden references from the games that only fans would say, or fans would appreciate, I mean. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, obviously the critics probably don't give a crap about it, but it's like the Super Mario Brothers movie where it had lots of references and Easter eggs. This was a movie meant more for the fans, which I was a part of. This was a movie that I definitely appreciated because like it finally came out, it was finally released, it finally happened, and it finally existed. Now people can finally stop talking about it. But at the same time, we know now there's definitely going to be a sequel had it surpassed over 100 million at the box office. But I can definitely say it's pretty cool for how Scott finally like had a movie of this bizarre thing finally come out, and at the same time it's like so crazy to think about. Like already we're like, wait, what would happen if a Five Nights at Freddy's movie came out? Because even fan films of these things like came out on YouTube of like all these different like people like making their own versions, whether it's like low budget and crappy or very high budget but at the same time not movie quality. But it's like really cool. So I'll give my like basic thoughts on it real quick. I might as well. Obviously, it like kind of takes some liberties from the first game, like taking place somewhere in the I want to say mid to late 90s, maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but it's still pretty cool. And they have the first 4 original animatronics, which is really cool. And the good thing about this is that they don't have like the entire movie in CGI. They like legit have like all the guys in costumes, which, to be honest, works a lot better than actual CGI, because if they used all the animatronics for CGI, it just wouldn't feel right. Because let's be honest, when you actually look at an animatronic, you're looking at it. It's real. It's right there in front of you. So it makes a lot of sense for the guys to be in costumes because you would actually interact with them. But basically, the cast was actually something I didn't exactly expect to appear, because it stars Josh Hutcherson, who's known for being in films like, even though I don't watch or give a crap about it, he's known for being in The Hunger Games, but also like in Zathura, Journey to the Center of the Earth, and RV. That's mainly what I know him for. basically is like that sort of middle child stereotype kid or whatever. But he's pretty cool. It's just weird to see him as an adult because I'm so used to seeing him as a kid in those older movies. But it also shows Matthew Lillard, who's known for playing as Shaggy from the Scooby Doo movies, and Scream, who was in there, and it kind of makes sense for him to be in there because they're both he's known for like horror-ish movies like Scooby Doo and Scream were known for that, so it makes sense. But yeah, other than that, it's like pretty much the only cast members you would really know. The other cast members, unfortunately, aren't known for a whole lot else. But those are pretty much the only ones that stand out. But the good thing I can definitely say is that Scott Cawthon was a producer, and that's pretty cool. And of course, this was from Blumhouse Studios, who did the recent Exorcist Believer, which is like a direct sequel to the first Exorcist movie, but also did the new Halloween trilogy. From like that started in 2018 with Halloween, the 2018 Halloween movie. Then later kicked off with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. And the trilogy is all right, but let's be honest, it's not that great. But regardless of that, it's still an okay movie. It's not great, it's not perfect, but I think it was great just for the fan community. I felt like it was one of those movies that just had to happen because the fans would definitely wanted something. Now, I was thinking the whole time of like, well, is this going to be canon to the actual games, or is this just a movie spinoff that's not canon entirely? And that's pretty much what that is. It's probably a non-canon rebooted title, just basically like resetting the universe, just making it a bit different. You can definitely see some differences in a couple characters you might see along the way. Again, like I said, there's lots of references in there, a couple funny moments, and it's a bit creepy. It may not be too scary for the certain things, but they definitely sneak in a couple of like interesting scenes in there that I was kind of shocked about, being like, "Whoa, I can't believe they put that in a movie like that." But I was thinking, well, it is PG-13, but I guess they got away with that somehow. But regardless of that, I still thought it was just okay. Again, not for everybody, not for like hardcore gore hounds that are like looking to see a bloodfest or whatever the heck. This is just meant for, kids and teenagers who grew up watching these movies and probably who are now adults, of course. So now my own speculation is like, what could they possibly do for the sequel? And we can only just speculate and think and theorize at this moment and go back to the other games. Maybe they'll do a prequel, maybe they'll just do something else, and who knows, maybe there'll be a TV series that'll spin off towards this. Who knows, maybe that'd be kind of a cool idea, but I could definitely say that, with Five Nights at Freddy's, it was a huge part, because I remember, like, me and my friends were always talking about it, theorizing it, and just, like, making fun of it, making our own, like, drawings and parodies of it. It was just, like, really, really cool, and it was quite an experience, because, again, it's, like, of how Slender, back in the day, when it was popular, people were obsessed with that and thought, like, that was popular, and then it's, like, over like 10 years after it was popular, like finally got a game. And that's the other thing like I'm seeing a theme with too, is that like lots of the video game movie adaptations were like, have like a movie that come out almost 10 years like after the game was popular. Because if you think about it, Angry Birds came out in 2012. Same thing with Slender in like Slender the 8 Pages or Slender the Arrival. They came out in like 2012, 2013. And then like over like almost 10 years later, then a movie comes out like after they were popular. It's like cool that Angry Birds got 2 sequels, but really all of a sudden right now, and the same thing with Slender Man. It's like he's had his his own movie that came out and didn't do so hot, but at the same time it's like why now? Because like he hasn't had a game since 2013, so it's like why? But whatever, it doesn't exactly matter. Now the only question is, will there be another Five Nights at Freddy's game? Because the last one that came out, if I'm remembering correctly, was just Security Breach, where it's like sort of like more of a free roam game. And I'll be honest, I have not watched enough of it or even played enough to care, because I got kind of tired of Five Nights at Freddy's, to be completely honest, because lots of the spin-offs and sequels were just like kind of tiresome at the moment, because it's like, oh cool, a new Five Nights at Freddy's game, well, what else is new? It's kind of like of how everybody's sick of Disney and Marvel movies nowadays. It's like, well, we used to like it, but we don't really like it anymore, so we're just going to move on. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Like, what did you think of the games if you watched them or grew up with them? What did you think of the movie? I'd like to hear anybody's thoughts, really. But regardless of that, I really think that Five Nights at Freddy's was like a good part of my childhood. Whether, through the good or bad and all that stuff, I still think it was a fantastic series regardless. Scott definitely like went above and beyond to go the extra mile with whatever sacrifices he took to do that. And it's just hard to believe with like something so simple of like a guy who went from just being an animator to being more than that, to be like a game developer for a popular game franchise. It's just like really crazy and hard to believe. But anyway, I think that it was like really, really cool back in the day. It still is, and hopefully like sometime in the future, like I'll be able to show my kids like that, or maybe other people in the future will show their kids of like back in the day this was cool and all this stuff. It was really scary, and who knows, maybe it'll be scary for them too. So yeah, that's my thought, and hopefully I'll talk more about other stuff. And again, I didn't want to spoil too much for the movie, considering that it only came out for like I want to say about a week, basically. But hopefully there'll be more stuff to come throughout the legacy, and I guess we'll see. So anyway, if you guys have any more suggestions for what else you want to talk about, and other stuff that I want to possibly talk about on the show, whether it's a movie, TV show, or maybe even a video game franchise, just let me know. So thanks for listening, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.